Hello, I'm Rupert Turton, and welcome to the Business Spotlight interview, where we talk to local business owners about their journey. This week, I'm joined by Simon Brown, who is founder of Investor Brands, a company that's been going for 10 years or so. But let me introduce you. So, Simon, welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rupert. Looking forward to the next few minutes.
Cool. Let's see where we go. I think obviously the first question is just explain what you do, what Investor Brands is all about.
Yeah, I mean, basically, we're a transformational digital business that helps medium-sized businesses go into new markets or new product areas with strategic partnerships as opposed to doing it all themselves. So, for example, we would take a retailer that is UK-centric, put them in the Middle East, but the retailer in the UK would use that mechanism not to operate it, but take a share in the value it's creating. So it's all about equity value of brands, Rupert, I think is the best way to describe it.
Wow, quite sounds like quite a niche market as well.
Yeah, it is niche, but equally during the pandemic, it had its challenges because nobody was thinking about international expansion or product expansion. They're all talking about survival. But yeah, it is fairly niche, and it has a certain expertise, which is managing that framework to make it successful.
So, how long have you been running Investor Brands?
I started in 2012.
Hmm.
I started with my co-founder purely because we had lots of businesses sort of talk to us collectively, either working for them or taking them into new markets. So it was a service-led, really, from a secondary income stream point of view, but also being able to give more of a service value rather than just standard consultancy fees, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's an interesting point you make about value versus the actual effort and resource time that went into it as well.
Yeah, I mean, what we find is that it's most businesses, and I'm no different. They all want to try and do everything themselves, and actually, they can't afford to hire the right people to do it well.
Yeah.
If you've got the right framework and you're prepared to take a bit of a punt on where and how you get paid, then it's a win-win for both partners.
Mm. So, what's been your biggest learning since you've been a business owner?
I think it's about focusing on the right businesses. Yeah,
Hmm.
so the right businesses with the right laying down the right foundations for, in our case, expansion. So for us, it's all about have any of our relationships, have they got the foundations to be able to deliver their aspirations? And sometimes that's not an easy conversation to have with an owner if they feel they're ready to go somewhere. So,
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, they feel they're ready, but the reality is they're not quite as far down that route as they think they are.
yeah, well, it's all about foundations, and I use that word a lot. If you haven't got the foundations, you need to create those foundations, and that's often just a tweak rather than major overhauls. Um,
Mm.
is understanding that actually to go into new ventures and new markets and be a more digital
Oh,
version of yourself. There's change times going on.
yeah. So, as what you mentioned, COVID-19 earlier as well. What changes did that lead to in your business then?
Well, for us, we had to accelerate our sort of digital offer, I suppose, very quickly. So whereas we tended to work with a lot of bricks and mortar partners or not so digitally advanced partners, what we found was actually the brand, your overall brand proposition, whether you were an online trader or not, you needed that framework to be able to make sure that you reached the right sort of level of interaction with the consumer. So it's no different from the last downturn. I think in 2007, 2008, it probably accelerated Asia's digital footprint by about 15 or 20 years.
Mm. Yeah, no, absolutely. So, as we come out of COVID, then what are your aspirations for the company over the next 5 years?
Well, we've got a number of things. We've developed our own IP in creating digital assets, which we can then therefore white label for partners across a multiple of sectors. But we are focusing on what I would call the sports sector at
Hmm.
the coming up with innovation and coming up with new ideas that will keep you ahead of your competition, because everybody has competitions, and just because we're a bit of a I suppose turnaround specialists as well within the way we think, doesn't mean to say that you can't develop new products on your own accord.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So what do you think the overall market's going to look like? The industry's going to look like over the next 5 years then?
Well, I think the overall market will be very much a whole story of consolidation and innovation. So
Hmm.
take various sectors. It's already happened in retail, but unless you have that point of difference, it's very difficult to compete. So if you're not a category leader, then you need to think about how you become a category leader, or you come up with ideas and thoughts that will keep you ahead. And that's the whole thing. So, again, if I look back in history, most downturns actually provide some new businesses and new opportunities as well, because you have to. The needs must.
Yeah, so change through necessity, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, the strong get stronger, and that's the way of the world. And recessions and downturns only tend to exaggerate that. But
Mm,
there are certain sectors, like let's take for example, which I think could go full 360 degrees, where actually the customer is demanding more choice rather than standardization.
yeah,
And has been very much a standardization journey because it was overpopulated.
yeah,
Um, if you look at any sector, that's very much still the same case.
yeah. Okay. So a bit of a change of tack then, Simon. What would you say to anyone thinking of going into business at the moment?
I'd say just make sure you've got a clear understanding of where you want to take the business.
Hmm.
Most importantly, don't try and do everything yourself, because there's a lot of people can help you out there.
Yeah,
Uh, Making sure that you're not frightened to ask for help. I'm not talking about pitching for consultancy fees, by the way. I'm talking about understanding where your strengths and understanding where your weaknesses are, which is one of the reasons I've got a co-founder,
yeah.
because I'm really good at what I'm not very good at.
Oh, so the complementary personalities. So so actually one of you is going to have strengths in different areas to the other, but between you form a far better whole.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I think to have your own business takes a huge amount of courage, and it's
Mm,
a hell of a journey, and it can be lonely at times. And it's important to keep that network and that mind fresh, and always look outside the shop as opposed to inside the shop. That's my philosophy.
yeah, and I think also the business market moves so quickly. I mean, marketing's a great example. Trying to keep up with everything that's happening in social media at the moment, it's very difficult for one person to keep up with everything that's happening around marketing and everything that's happening around other areas such as finance and HR. There's so much legislative stuff that we have to know that there's no way that one person can keep up with it all. You have to get the experts in to help with that area.
Well, you do, and you have to form a network where you can create that sort of trust, if that makes sense. And
Mm,
marketing and brand has now become more important than ever. So often, and I've seen this in my corporate career, marketing is often regarded as almost an expense, as opposed to what it
yeah,
should be regarded as, which is a true brand proposition. So, what is your brand? What does it mean to the consumer? Is not a marketing play. It's
yeah.
about your long-term sustainability of what you're trying to achieve, really.
Yeah, very much an investment in the success of the business as well.
Yes, it is, and it has to be. Those are the sort of things that it goes back to the foundations, if that makes sense. If you haven't got those four parts to the stall, as they call it, then actually building a house on top of those foundations becomes very concerning. Whether you're an investor, whether you're a one-man band or whatever, you've got to be able to articulate and define and evolve those foundations.
Yeah. Okay. Slightly more personal question then. So, who is the first person that comes to mind when you think about success?
Well, I think that's a great question, but I would say there's two people. Richard Branson was always my sort of hero because he came from nothing, yeah,
Yeah.
and created something which is vast, and that was done on one of the biggest brand stories probably during my
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Professional interest.
my experience. But equally, he was very strong as in defining what he was good at and what he wasn't good at, and he always hired really clever people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and that's an extreme, but on the other side, to me, what do I think about success is that, I've said this a few times now, but there's a friend of mine who's actually never earned that much, but he's completely content and very happy with his life. You know what I mean? And I'm not sure I'm ever going to hit those levels, but that should be regarded as a measure of success as well.
Yeah. So, what's the common thread that runs between your friend and Richard Branson then? What would you say the one thing that dictates their move or their successfulness, if that's a real word?
Yeah, no, I think it's about passion, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? So, if you look at my friend, I define as extremely content. His passion is family and golf. Do you know what I mean? That's it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That matters to him. Whereas, if you look at what Richard Branson and other hugely successful entrepreneurs have achieved, that their passion is about building businesses and making a difference to the planet. Do you know what I mean? Or whatever your passion is meant to be. So I think there is success can be viewed in many ways, not just in monetary terms. Is my point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Cool. Simon, it's been great talking to you. Before we finish, are there any offers, anything, contacts, newsletters, anything you'd like us to mention in the along with the post?
No, I mean, all I would say is if anyone needs any help, officially or unofficially, just always give me a call, and we'll happily speak to anybody out there, because this is not just about big business; it's about helping smaller businesses succeed as well.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's great. Cool. Simon Brown, thank you very much for your time today. It's
Not at
been an
all.
absolute pleasure.